Hello, welcome to another video on our channel. Here, we translate testimonies from people who have had near-death experiences and other spiritual experiences. Today, let's learn the story of Gudrun Schweiger. She tells how she died, met two beings of light, and made a devastating choice during her near-death experience. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Leave a comment with your name and city. Let's now listen to Gudrun's testimony. Hello, my name is Gudrun Schweiger. I'm here to share with you an experience that completely changed my life and the way I see the world. In 2008, I had a near-death experience that profoundly changed me and taught me valuable lessons about unconditional love and spiritual connection. Before I get into the details of this extraordinary experience, let me tell you a little about myself. I am a woman who has always sought to live a full and meaningful life. I was born and raised in Germany, but destiny took me to the United States, where I built my adult life. I am married to Klaus Geurer, my life partner, and together we have a wonderful son called Felix. My journey was not easy. I have faced many challenges over the years, including drastic life changes, health issues, and financial difficulties. But every obstacle I encountered served as a lesson, shaping who I am today. I have always been a curious person and open to new experiences. This has led me to explore various spiritual and holistic practices over the years, including Reiki and meditation. These practices helped me develop a greater sensitivity to the world around me and the energies that surround us. Professionally, I worked as a real estate agent with my husband. Our career led us to move from Los Angeles to Las Vegas in 2003, a decision we made to be closer to my mother, Helga, who needed constant care after breaking her hip. I never imagined that this move to Las Vegas would be the beginning of a series of events that would lead me to such a profound and transformative experience. But as they say, life has its own plans for us, and sometimes, it's in the most challenging moments that we find our greatest revelations. The experience I am about to share with you occurred at a time of great turmoil in my life. It was a period of intense trials, but also of extraordinary revelations. Through this experience, I discovered a fundamental truth about the nature of existence and the power of unconditional love. I'm here to share my story in the hopes that it can bring comfort, inspiration, and perhaps even a new perspective to those who hear it. So let's begin this journey together. A journey that has taken me to the limits of life and death and back again. The path that led me to my near-death experience was paved with challenges and difficulties. Everything started to intensify after we moved to Las Vegas. Although we made this move with the best intentions to care for my mother and pursue better financial opportunities, we soon found ourselves facing a series of unexpected obstacles. Shortly after we settled in Las Vegas, Klaus was in a terrible car accident. I vividly remember the day I got the call. My heart stopped for a moment when they told me he was in the hospital. Klaus was seriously injured and spent weeks in hospital. Seeing my husband, always so strong and full of life, struggling to recover was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. Klaus' recovery was slow and painful. He was physically disabled for a long period of time, which profoundly affected our daily lives and work. Furthermore, we found ourselves involved in a long and stressful legal battle related to the accident. In the midst of all this, I became pregnant after a medical intervention. While pregnancy was a blessing, it also brought new challenges. My own health began to deteriorate. I found myself frequently ill, battling recurring infections. I began to believe that my own words and thoughts were affirming my vulnerability to illness. It was at this time that I started looking for answers in holistic and spiritual practices. I dove into Reiki and other forms of alternative healing, desperate to find relief from our problems. Although these practices brought some comfort, nothing seemed to completely resolve our difficulties. To make matters worse, in 2008, the housing market collapse hit us with full force. As real estate agents, Klaus and I saw our business fall apart overnight. We faced the threat of losing our home to foreclosure. The future, which once seemed so promising, was now shrouded in uncertainty and fear. It was in this moment of deep despair that Klaus decided to participate in a 10-day silent retreat. He hoped to find peace and clarity to deal with all the pain and suffering we were experiencing. Although I understood her need, I couldn't help but feel abandoned and overwhelmed, left alone to care for our family at such a difficult time. Shortly after Klaus left, I developed a serious respiratory infection. The antibiotics I was prescribed had no effect, and my condition rapidly worsened. I remember feeling an inexplicable urgency to solve household chores, as if some part of me knew something serious was about to happen. As my health deteriorated, I was forced to ask a friend for help in caring for Felix. I was bedridden, extremely weak, struggling to breathe. It was in this state of deep physical and emotional exhaustion that I found myself on the brink of death, about to experience something that would change my life forever. Lying in my bed, feeling every breath like a struggle, I reached a point where I felt free to let go. It was at that moment that everything changed. Suddenly I felt weightless, as if I were floating. I looked down and saw my body lying on the bed. It was a surreal feeling, like I was watching a movie about myself. I didn't feel scared. Instead, I was overcome by a feeling of peace and freedom that I had never experienced before. It was as if all the weights and worries of life had been lifted from my shoulders. I felt completely free. Then, I noticed a light. It wasn't like any light I'd ever seen before. It was extraordinarily bright, but not dazzling. It was warm, inviting. I felt irresistibly attracted to her. As I got closer, the light became more intense, more beautiful. It was like I was diving into an ocean of pure love and acceptance. Within this light, I noticed two presences. They did not have physical form as we know them, but they were clearly conscious beings. They communicated with me, but not through words. It was a form of telepathic communication, direct and clear. His messages came to me as pure thoughts, full of emotion and meaning. These beings of light welcomed me with such deep and unconditional love that I felt completely enveloped and accepted. There was no judgment. There were no expectations. Just pure love and total acceptance. It was an indescribable feeling of belonging and connection with everything that exists. The beings of light offered me a choice. They showed me that I could continue my journey beyond this point, crossing completely to the other side. Or I could return to my physical body and my life on Earth. There was no pressure from either side. It was a genuine and free choice. Before I could make a decision, the beings of light gave me an extraordinary experience. They guided me through a relationship review with Klaus and Felix. It was not a simple recall of memories. It was as if I could feel and experience each moment again. But this time, from a much higher and more understanding perspective, I felt the unconditional love I had for Klaus and Felix, but in a completely new way. There was no attachment. There was no judgment. It was a pure and free love, without expectations or conditions. I could clearly see the role each of them played in my life and the role I played in theirs. It was during this review that I received crucial information. The beings of light showed me that my death at that moment would be devastating for Felix. I saw how my departure would profoundly affect his life path, preventing him from fulfilling his destiny. I felt the pain Felix would feel at my loss, and that realization went through me like a blade. At that moment, I made my decision. I knew I needed to go back, not out of fear of death or attachment to life, but out of love. A love that transcended my own desires and extended to my son's well-being and destiny. With this decision made, I felt myself being gently guided back into my body. The light began to dim, but the feeling of love and connection remained. Slowly, I began to feel the physical sensations in my body again. And then, I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I found myself sitting on the bed. The first thing I noticed was that I felt significantly better physically. The terrible respiratory infection that had brought me to the brink of death seemed to have almost completely disappeared. It was as if my body had undergone an accelerated healing process during my experience. But the most notable change was not physical. It was a profound change in my perception of life. Everything around me seemed different, even though nothing had changed objectively. It was like I was seeing the world through a new lens, a lens of love and understanding. There was an afterglow to everything I looked at. It wasn't a physical glow, but a kind of inner luminosity that I could perceive in every object, in every living being. It was as if I could see life energy pulsing through everything around me. More than that, I felt overwhelmed by a sense of happiness and calm that I had never experienced before. It was a deep peace that seemed to come from within, regardless of external circumstances. I remember looking out the window and marveling at the beauty of the sky, the trees, the people passing by on the street. Everything seemed extraordinarily beautiful and meaningful. This feeling of happiness and calm lasted for about 2 weeks. During this time, I felt like I was floating in a state of grace. The worries and problems that once consumed me seemed to have lost their power over me. Not that they were gone. Our financial situation was still precarious, Klaus was still recovering, and we had many challenges ahead. But the way I perceived and reacted to these difficulties had completely changed. I felt deeply grateful for every moment, every breath. Life, which I had often taken for granted before, now seemed like a precious gift. Every interaction, every experience, no matter how mundane, seemed charged with meaning and potential. My relationship with Klaus and Felix also changed. The love I felt for them was deeper and freer than ever before. I saw them with new clarity, appreciating their unique individualities and the special role they each played in my life. As the days passed, although the initial intensity of the experience began to subside, the lessons and insights I gained stayed with me. I realized I had been given a precious gift, a second chance at life, but more than that, a new perspective on what really matters. It was during this time that I made the decision to dedicate my life to light work and mindfulness. I felt a deep calling to share what I had learned, to help others find peace and purpose in their lives. I began writing about my experience, trying to capture in words something that seemed beyond language. I also began exploring ways to teach mindfulness and self-mastery, tools that I believed could help people connect with the same peace and clarity that I had experienced. Returning to everyday life after such a profound experience was not easy. There were times when I felt disconnected, like I was living between two worlds. But each challenge I faced only served to reinforce the lessons I had learned. I knew I had come back for a reason, and I was determined to live each day with purpose and gratitude. After my near-death experience, my perspective on life changed drastically. It was as if I had received a new pair of eyes, capable of seeing beyond the surface of things. I began to see life not as a series of random events, but as a deeply meaningful and interconnected journey. One of the most significant changes was my understanding of death. Before, like many people, I feared death. It was something I avoided thinking about, something that caused me anxiety. But after my experience, I began to appreciate every moment of it with renewed intensity. Each day has become a precious opportunity to grow, learn, and, above all, love. Love, in fact, gained a new meaning for me. The unconditional love I experienced during my near-death experience became my new standard. I realized that much of what we call love in our daily lives is actually conditioned by expectations, fears, and desires. True love, I learned, is free from all these things. It is a pure, unconditional force that connects us to each other and to the universe as a whole. I started to see this love everywhere around me, in the small kindnesses between strangers, in the care of a mother for her child, in the dedication of a teacher to his students. I realized that this love is always there, just waiting for us to open our hearts to it. Another significant change was my understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. During my experience, I felt deeply connected to everyone and everything. That feeling didn't completely disappear when I returned. Instead, it turned into a constant awareness of how our actions, thoughts, and emotions affect not just ourselves, but everything around us. It has led me to a new appreciation for the responsibility we have to each other and the planet. I began to see every choice I made as an opportunity to contribute positively to the world. From the simplest decisions, like being patient in traffic, to the most significant ones, like choosing a new direction for my career. My relationship with time has also changed. Before, I was always rushing, always worrying about the future or regretting the past. After my experience, I learned to live more in the present. I realized that now is the only moment we really have, and I started paying more attention to each experience, each conversation, each breath. This new perspective didn't mean I had become immune to life's challenges. The problem still existed. We had debts to pay, relationships to repair, difficult decisions to make. But the way I faced these challenges had completely changed. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by them, I saw them as opportunities to grow and learn. I started practicing gratitude more consciously and consistently. Even on the hardest days, I could find something to be grateful for. This practice helped me keep perspective and not lose sight of the lessons I had learned. In essence, my new perspective on life was based on the understanding that we are all spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. This realization brought a deep peace and sense of purpose to my life that I longed to share with others. The transformation I experienced after my near-death experience was profound and far-reaching. It was not just a shift in perspective, but a complete restructuring of my inner being. One of the first things I noticed was a new sensitivity to the energies around me. It was as if a sixth sense had been activated. I could feel people's emotions in a way I had never felt before, almost as if I could read their auras. This led me to develop a much deeper empathy. I could better understand people's struggles and joys, even when they didn't express them verbally. This new sensitivity also extended to the natural world. I started to feel a deeper connection with nature. The trees, the flowers, even the rocks seemed to have a life of their own that I could perceive. This led me to greater respect and care for the environment. My relationship with my own body has also changed. I developed a more acute awareness of my body's needs and began to treat it with more respect and care. I changed my diet to more natural and nutritious foods, started practicing yoga and meditation regularly, and started listening to my body when it needed rest. Another significant change was in relation to my ego. Before, I was often worried about what others thought of me, always seeking approval and recognition. After my experience, these concerns seemed trivial. I felt more secure in who I was, less inclined to compare myself to others or seek external validation. My relationship with materialism has also transformed. The things that once seemed so important, fashionable clothes, expensive cars, a big house, have lost much of their appeal. I still appreciated beautiful things but I no longer felt the need to possess them or define my worth through them. My focus shifted to experiences and relationships, rather than material possessions. One of the most profound transformations was in my spirituality. Before, I had a distant relationship with spirituality, based more on rituals and inherited beliefs than on personal experience. After my experience, spirituality became a living, vibrant part of my daily life. It wasn't something I only practiced on special occasions, but something that permeated every aspect of my existence. My understanding of the purpose of life has also transformed. Before, I was mainly focused on external goals, career success, financial security, social recognition. Now, I saw that the true purpose of life was spiritual growth and love. Every experience, every relationship, every challenge has become an opportunity to grow in love and understanding. This transformation did not happen overnight. It was a gradual, sometimes challenging process. There were times when I felt lost, trying to navigate between my new understanding and the demands of the normal world. But over time, I found ways to integrate my new perspective into my everyday life. An important part of this integration was learning to communicate my new insights to others. Not everyone understood or easily accepted the changes that had occurred in me. I had to learn to be patient, to express my ideas in ways that others could understand, and to accept that not everyone would share my new worldview. In the end, This personal transformation became the catalyst for a new direction in my life. I felt a deep calling to share what I had learned, to help others find peace and purpose in their own lives. And so, I embarked on a new journey, no longer as a real estate agent, but as a teacher and spiritual guide. The near-death experience not only affected my worldview and understanding of life, but it also had a profound impact on all of my relationships, especially with my family and close friends. My relationship with Klaus, my husband, has undergone a significant transformation. Before my experience, our marriage was solid, but like many couples, we had our struggles and moments of tension. After my experience, I saw Klaus with new eyes. I was able to appreciate its essence in a way I never had before. I realized that a lot of what I saw as flaws in him were actually just expressions of his own journey and growth. This new perspective allowed me to love him in a deeper, more unconditional way. I became more patient, more understanding. Our discussions, which previously sometimes escalated into conflict, now became opportunities for greater understanding and mutual growth. Klaus noticed this change in me, and, although initially confused, he eventually responded positively. Our connection deepened, and our relationship blossomed in ways we didn't imagine possible. With Felix, my son, the transformation was equally profound. The vision I had during my experience of how my death would affect him gave me a new appreciation for the importance of my role in his life. I became more present, more attentive to their emotional and spiritual needs, not just their physical ones. I began to see him not just as my son, but as a spiritual being on his own unique journey. It changed the way I raised him. I became less controlling, more focused on guiding him to find his own truth and purpose. Our conversations became deeper, and I shared with him, in age-appropriate ways, the lessons I had learned. I saw Felix blossom under this new approach, becoming more confident and compassionate. My relationships with friends and family have also been affected. Some found it difficult to understand the changes I had undergone. There were moments of misunderstanding and even conflict. Some friends turned away, unable to relate to my new perspective on life. However, other relationships deepened in unexpected ways. Friends who shared spiritual interests grew even closer. New friendships formed with people who resonated with my new way of seeing the world. I found that the quality of my relationships had changed. I sought out and attracted more authentic and meaningful connections. With my mother, Helga, who was still struggling with health issues, my relationship became more compassionate and patient. I was able to see beyond her physical limitations and appreciate the beauty of her spirit. This made caring for her not a burden, but an opportunity to express love and gratitude. An interesting change occurred in how I related to strangers. I began to see every interaction, no matter how brief, as an opportunity to connect and share love. A smile to the supermarket cashier, a kind word to someone on the street. These small actions took on new meaning for me. I also noticed that people seemed to respond differently to me. Many commented that they felt calm and at ease in my presence. Some even shared personal problems with me, feeling safe to open their hearts. However, this new way of relating to others also brought challenges. At times, I felt overwhelmed by the emotional intensity of the interactions. I had to learn to set healthy boundaries, to take care of my own energy while remaining open and compassionate with others. In short, my near-death experience profoundly transformed the way I related to everyone in my life. I learned to see beyond appearances, to connect with the spiritual essence of each individual. It has brought new depth and richness to all of my relationships, making every interaction an opportunity for growth, love, and spiritual connection. After my near-death experience, it became clear to me that I couldn't just go back to my old life and career as if nothing had happened. The profound transformation I experienced required equally profound changes in how I lived my life and earned my living. Before my experience, Klaus and I were real estate agents. It was work that provided us with a good living, but now seemed empty of deeper meaning. The pursuit of financial success and social status that once motivated me now seemed trivial in comparison to the truths I had glimpsed. I felt a strong and clear calling to dedicate my life to light work and mindfulness. I wanted to share what I had learned, to help other people find peace, purpose, and spiritual connection in their lives. But how to make that transition wasn't immediately clear to me. I started slowly, first writing about my experience. Putting what I had experienced on paper was a challenging but deeply therapeutic process. Words seemed inadequate to describe the magnitude of what I had experienced, but writing helped me process and integrate the experience. As I shared my writing with friends and family, I realized that my story resonated deeply with many people. Even those who were initially skeptical were intrigued and often deeply moved. It encouraged me to share my story more widely. I began giving small talks to local groups, sharing my experience and the lessons I had learned. The response was surprisingly positive. People came up to me after the talks, sharing their own spiritual struggles and searches. I realized there was a deep hunger for this kind of knowledge and experience. At the same time, I started studying and practicing mindfulness more seriously. The meditation and mindfulness practices that I had superficially explored before now took on new meaning and depth. I realized that these practices were powerful tools for helping people connect with the same peace and clarity that I had experienced. Gradually, I began offering mindfulness and meditation classes. At first, it was small groups in my home or at local community centers. Over time, as my confidence and experience grew, the groups expanded. I started to be invited to give workshops at companies and organizations. The career transition process was not easy. There were moments of doubt and fear. Leaving behind the security of an established career to pursue a spiritual calling was risky, especially considering our already precarious financial situation. Klaus, although initially skeptical, ended up supporting me on this journey, seeing how it brought me joy and fulfillment. As my work expanded, I realized I needed more knowledge and credentials. I began studying psychology and counseling, seeking to integrate my spiritual experience with a deeper understanding of the human mind. I also sought formal training in various mindfulness and meditation techniques. I wrote a book about my experience and the lessons I learned, which opened even more doors. I began to be invited to speak at conferences and larger events, sharing my message with a wider audience. This new career brought unique challenges. Dealing with people's intense stories and emotions could be emotionally draining. I had to learn to take care of my own energy and well-being while serving others. I also faced skepticism and even ridicule from some who viewed my work as pseudoscience or meaningless mysticism. However, the challenges were overcome by the deep sense of purpose and fulfillment I felt. Seeing people transform their lives, find peace and meaning, was incredibly rewarding. I felt like I was fulfilling the purpose for which I had returned to life. Financially, things were difficult at first. My new career wasn't just a job, it was a calling. Each day brought new opportunities to learn, grow, and serve. I felt deeply grateful to have the chance to do work that not only supported me financially, but also fed my soul. Looking back, I see how my near-death experience was a crucial turning point in my life. She led me on a path I never would have imagined for myself, a path of service, growth, and deep meaning. Through this journey, I discovered that our true calling often aligns with our deepest, most transformative experiences. For me, sharing the lessons of love, connection, and awareness I've learned has become my life purpose. As I reflect on my journey since my near-death experience, I realize that the lessons I learned are universal and have the potential to positively impact many people's lives. I feel a responsibility to share these lessons with the world. The most fundamental lesson I learned is about the nature of love. The love I experienced during my near-death experience was something so pure, so unconditional, that it completely transformed my understanding of what love really is. I realized that much of what we call love in our daily lives is actually conditioned by expectations, fears, and desires. True love, I learned, is free from all these things. It is a force that connects us to each other and to the universe as a whole. Another crucial lesson was about the nature of reality. I realized that the physical world we experience with our senses is just a small part of a much larger and more complex reality. There are dimensions of existence beyond our physical world, dimensions full of light, love, and wisdom. This understanding led me to see our earthly life as a kind of school, where we come to learn and grow spiritually. I also learned about the importance of awareness and mindfulness. During my experience, I experienced a state of expanded consciousness that allowed me to see things with incredible clarity. Since then, I have worked to cultivate this awareness in my daily life through the practice of mindfulness. I realized that the more aware we are, the more we can live aligned with our true purpose. One lesson I feel is particularly important to share is about the nature of death. My experience has shown me that death is not the end, but a transition. There is nothing to fear in death. This understanding has the potential to profoundly transform how we live our lives, freeing us from fear and allowing us to live more fully. I learned about the interconnectedness of all things. During my experience, I felt deeply connected to everyone and everything. This sense of unity remained with me, although less intensely after my return. It has led me to a new appreciation for the responsibility we have to each other and the planet. Every action, every thought, has an impact on the whole. Another important lesson was about the power of our choices and intentions. I saw clearly how our decisions and even our thoughts shape our reality. This has led me to be much more conscious about where I place my attention and energy. I learned about the importance of forgiveness and compassion. During my life review, I saw how judgment and resentment only create more suffering, while forgiveness and compassion have the power to heal and transform. One lesson I try to convey in my work is the importance of finding and living our unique purpose. Each of us has unique gifts and experiences that we can offer the world. Finding and living that purpose brings a deep sense of fulfillment and joy. I also learned about the power of gratitude. Even in the most difficult times, there is always something to be grateful for. Cultivating an attitude of gratitude can transform our experience of life. Finally, I learned about the cyclical nature of life. Everything is constantly changing and evolving. Difficulties don't last forever, nor do moments of joy. This understanding brought me deep acceptance and peace. My message to the world is simple but profound. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. We are all connected. Death is not the end. Each of us has a unique and important purpose. Awareness is the key to a fulfilling life. Forgiveness and compassion have the power to heal. Gratitude can transform our experience of life. I believe that if more people could incorporate these lessons into their lives, we would see a profound transformation in our society. We would see more compassion, more cooperation, less fear and conflict. We would see people living more meaningful and fulfilled lives. My hope is that by sharing my story and the lessons I've learned, I can contribute in some way to this transformation. May each person who hears my story be inspired to look deeper into their own life, to question their assumptions, to open their heart to more love and compassion. As I reach the end of this narrative, I feel a deep gratitude for having the opportunity to share my story. Reflecting on everything that has happened since that fateful day in 2008, I marvel at the journey I have been on. My near-death experience was, without a doubt, the most transformative event of my life. Not only has it changed my perspective on life and death, but it has also fundamentally altered who I am as a person. I went from a real estate agent focused on material success to a spiritual seeker and teacher, dedicated to sharing the profound truths I learned. However, it is important to note that this transformation did not happen overnight. It was a gradual, often challenging process of integrating the lessons I learned into my everyday life. There were moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if I was on the right path. But with each step, I felt an inner guidance, a deep certainty that I was following my true purpose. One of the most surprising things for me was how my experience resonated with so many people. I discovered that although near-death experiences are relatively rare, the lessons I learned touch on something universal. People long for meaning, for connection, for a deeper understanding of life and death. My story seems to offer a glimpse of these greater truths that we all, on some level, seek. Over the years, I have seen countless lives transformed through the work I was guided to do. I've seen people overcome deeply held fears, heal broken relationships, find peace in the midst of chaos. Every story of transformation I witnessed reinforced my conviction that I had returned for a reason. However, I also learned that I don't have all the answers. My experience, as profound as it was just a glimpse of a much greater reality. I continue to be a student, always learning, always growing. Every person I work with, every challenge I face, teaches me something new. One of the most important lessons I've learned along this journey is the importance of balance. Looking to the future, I feel a mixture of hope and concern for the world. I see so many challenges we face as a society: climate change, inequality, conflict. But I also see an awakening happening. More and more people are seeking deeper understanding, a more authentic connection, a more sustainable and compassionate way of life. My hope is that by sharing my story and the lessons I've learned, I can contribute in some way to this awakening. May each person who hears my story be inspired to look deeper into their own life, to question their assumptions, to open their heart to more love and compassion. In the end, the message I want to leave is one of hope. No matter how difficult the circumstances, there is always light. No matter how lost we feel, there is always a way back home. And that home is not a physical place, but a state of being, a state of love, of connection, of peace. My near-death experience showed me that we are much more than our physical bodies, much more than our current circumstances. We are eternal beings, on a journey of growth and evolution. And although we may forget this sometimes, caught up in the worries and struggles of everyday life, this deeper truth is always there, waiting to be rediscovered. As I continue my journey, I am grateful for each day, each experience, each person I encounter. Every moment is an opportunity to learn, grow, and love more deeply. And in the end, I believe that's what really matters. The love we share, the compassion we show, the light we bring to the world. May we all awaken to the truth of who we truly are, to the power of love that resides within us, and to the beauty and mystery of life in all its forms. That is my hope, my prayer, and my ongoing commitment. What did you think of this incredible story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Activate the notification bell to be notified with each new video. Let's bring visions from beyond to more people.